you and that you receive it that way. We're all in this together. They've just done it, a couple more times than we have, maybe. So I'm going to pass the mic to Ashleen, and they're all going to sort of introduce themselves and get started from there.
All right, girls. Okay, so let's just pass the mic. Introduce yourselves, your name, your husband, your kids, and your MOPS history, and maybe something fun about yourself. Something interesting about. Put you on the spot. Right away.
Hi, I'm Krista Stewart. I have 4 girls. I've been married to my husband, Aaron, for I think going on 6 or 7 years. Our oldest Bella is 11. Then we have Megan, who is 5, Ava, who is 3.5, and Lauren, who is 1. And something interesting about me is I just started back to work part-time, and it's awesome. My name is Angela. My husband's name is Peter. We have 5 children. Justin is 13, Braden is 9, Emmeline is 6, Addison will be 4 in 2 weeks, and Calvin is 2. I attended MOPS all the way through, I want to say Braden's kindergarten year, maybe. He's a 3rd grader now. And something interesting about me is I homeschool. So I'm Adrian. I feel like you guys have heard my bio 18 times. So anyway, married to the really cute gym teacher who does not look so cute this morning because he's really tired. We just celebrated 15 years of marriage this August. We have Cameron is 10, Brendan is 9, Dawson is 8, and Jax will be 7 in January. And interesting, I made my first pot of coffee for myself this last week. Like I've made a pot of coffee, but I've never for myself. So that's my interest.
I'm Stephanie. I'm married to Ken. We've been married for 22 years. Together, let's see, 27, so that's pretty awesome. And when I was 16, that's interesting. There you go. I have 5 kiddos. My oldest is Emmy. She's 20. Naomi is 11. Travis is 7. Wyatt is going to be 5 here shortly. And Sophia just turned 3.
All right, first question is, with a large family, how are you able to host or deal with last-minute company?
Well, the first thing I think of when I think company is how clean is my house? What does it look like? And who is coming? For my own sanity, I kind of have like a 1 to 2 room dirty limit. Like I only allow 2 rooms at the most to be dirty. So I will stop my kids during their play, and if it gets, because their room that they're playing in gets too messy, so they creep out into the living room. I stop them, we go clean up their room, and then they're allowed to do another room. That's just a little bit of my own sanity, but I do find it helpful, and they learn how to clean up, and then they can't go on to the next thing until the last thing's cleaned up. The other thing I think of is, another thing that I do is, it seems like the bathroom is the most used, but often neglected. Take a couple extra minutes and just scrub the toilet after you get done using it. Most of the time your kids aren't in there with you. Or if they are, it's a learning opportunity for them to learn how to scrub the toilet. It's really exciting to play in the bowl with that really fun scrubber. The other thing I think of is like food, who's coming. And that's just, I don't think large families, everyone has to figure out what food you're going to have or how you're going to prepare it. If you're having just a small dinner party, if someone offers to bring something or ask what can I bring, let them bring something. Don't carry the burden of supplying all the food and doing all the cleaning. I'm just going to take a side tangent on large families and what we do for company. I think another question that kind of is, how do you get out of the house and on time? Because that's often like, we get stared at Costco because we have a large family, and I feel like we're put together, but I often feel like people are like, how did you get here on time? Or how did, and for me, that is just making a habit and allowing enough time, creating a routine with your kids. We will brush our hair this morning. We will take a shower. And just staying calm. I feel like the calmer we are, calmer they are. They're going to have their moments, and we got to just let them have their moments. But if we turn into a puddle right next to them, we're not really setting a very good example for them. So And the other thing, lastly, that we do, when we do have company, is we stop what we're doing and say hello to our guests. And when they leave, we say goodbye to our guests also.
I should be taking notes. I have a very different response because I want to paint two pictures for you. Both of them are reality. One of them is my heart when I host, and one of them is what it looks like when I host. So here's my heart. I picture whether I've invited over neighborhood children or a family from church or just a girlfriend or maybe a family to watch football. My heart is that when they would enter our home, that they would know that they are our priority, and we want them to feel loved and welcome, and I want to serve them, and I want them to get a sense that they're important, that they are valuable, and but I also want them to be comfortable. So here's where the reality part comes in, is that in all honesty, if I were to invite you over to my house, there's probably going to be pee on my toilet, and there's going to be toys in every single room, and it's going to smell like dirty laundry because somebody mopped up milk and did not wash the rag into the bottom of the pile, growing mold. True story. So, I guess my point in that is that we have had this refining process. The more like God has added to our family, the more I've had to be kind of stripped of this desire to look a certain way, to present a certain image that wasn't healthy for me, and it wasn't healthy for my children. People were miserable at our house before company came. It was like, clean your room right now. People cannot see how disgusting this is. And or my husband would like say, can I help? Just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. I gotta do this. This just gotta get done. And it was super ugly. And then people would get there and it's like, hi, welcome to our home. And the kids are like, right. And so, and that's not authentic. That's not who we really are. And that's like being fake. And my children could see right through that. And I think that for me, God knew that that wasn't going to be stripped of me until He gave me lots and lots of children. And I always say that the standard dropped with every child. And Calvin's the one that put the bathrooms over the edge. So I was just like, I could scrub the toilet or anything else. So what I was capable of doing before somebody came over was just practically less. There was 5 children, 7 people in our home. There's no possible way it could all be clean, or I'd have to lock them in a closet. I mean, they have to be somewhere doing something. And so we decided this last year, kind of like our family motto was people over everything. People and relationships come before our agendas. They come before our image. They come before our own desires, because that's what the Bible teaches. And so we even said, when someone starts to come up those front stairs, they are our priority. And that was really hard, because we also made a decision to intentionally open our home to the neighborhood children this summer and kind of start just allowing them in our lives. And there were lots of times that my heart was like, oh, no, maybe they just don't answer the door. But it's impossible, because the kids all run screaming, Kennedy's here! It's the neighbor girl. And so it was really refining this year, because I had to say, am I going to let Debbie come inside when I really know that there's a poopy diaper that's smelling the whole house and dishes all over my sink? And am I going to let, so-and-so come inside and see this? And it's yeah, because what we have to offer each other as far as encouragement and care and just like I'm the same as you. Like, my kids throw fits. My house can get really messy, and sometimes I don't get out of my pajamas. And I don't ever want someone to leave my home feeling bad about who they are or what their home looks like. My good friend told me a long time ago, just think, you just made them feel really good, because they're leaving thinking, well, I'm a really good housekeeper. So, like, please, come to my house and leave feeling like you're a really good housekeeper.
All right, how did you decide how many kids to have?
I apparently didn't write down what
much questions I was actually answering. Oh, there you go, thanks. This is kind of a hard one. I have been struggling with, like, I don't feel like I'm the one that should answer this question, but that means that God's going to use me to answer the question. So background story, I'm kind of a control freak. I wanted 4 kids. No, I don't. Kenny wanted 2 kids, I wanted 4. It's the one thing that you cannot compromise and have half a child with your spouse. Like, truly. And so, in my Adrianness, I knew I was going to get my way, but not. And so we had actually, before we started having kids, especially as close as we had them, we had decided we would have 3 then. And Kenny was not sold on number 4. And I was like, okay. And they happened rather quickly, so apparently we knew how to make that happen. And so when we had Dawson, I didn't feel like that we were done with our family yet. And Kenny's like, I am done. And God really shifted my heart into the fact that I needed to pray, because I was like, no, we need number 4. And he goes, no. So we had agreed for us that we would wait until Dawson was a year old before we made anything permanent. And my goal that year started off being, I'm going to pray that God will change Kenny's mind. I'm going to pray God will change Kenny's mind. And through that, I had some good friends who just spoke some truth into my life that said, no, he is your husband still. And you need to honor him, and you need to respect him, and your prayer needs to be that you'll be on the same page. And so through doing that, we ended up having, I had an ectopic pregnancy. It was like 12 weeks after Dawson was born. So we got, stay away from me, Kenny. But just going, okay, God, I didn't want, and Kenny after that was adamant, like, I do not want another child. And it was really, really tearing me up inside. But I had to go, you know what? He's my husband, and I have to honor him. And I need to do everything now in my power to not get pregnant. It's still honoring him and with our marital vows. And God still blessed us with Jax, which is a whole nother story. But so for us, it was just praying and God just really changing my heart to go, you know what? I need to honor my spouse. And if he only wants 2 kids, then I need to do that, and we need to talk. And it was probably one of the things that drew us together, because it was the hard conversations we needed to have in, you know what, we can't do this. And I realized too for him, because a lot of times when we're with, like I love nursing and I love babies and I love all that, where he's thinking, I have to support these kids for 18 years. I'm supporting you as a stay-at-home mom. Like, I need to turn around and go, how can I honor and bless you? Like, I don't see it as a man sees it, to go, I want to provide everything for my children. I mean, we had up the talk, you were not giving our kids cars when they're 16, so get that out of your head. Like, that is not a need for them. So there are, some things that we had to finagle and change, as we did decide that we wanted 3. And then, now with 4, but at the same time to honor him and go, okay, he is seeing them as, how do I give them the best life? How do I set them up to, succeed in life? I don't want my kids looking like, poor hobos down the road because I can't clothe them. Or, I want them to eat healthy and not struggle with the things that I struggle with because I didn't eat healthy as a kid because of X, Y, and Z. And so, like I said, we still ended up with 4, which doesn't feel like I'm making the point of my story, but God just really took that and used that, good year of just investing and realizing what my husband and how he saw things, and just honoring him. So.
Okay. I say God is really good. I always wanted a large family, and I had my first one, my 20-year-old at 23, and I was like, okay, she's 2, let's go. And let's get started, let's go. And I was like, yeah, no, 1's good. And I'm like, what? No, 1's not good. And he's like, why mess it up? She's so perfect, she's so pleasing. She just was one of those really great kids, And he's like, I'm done. And I begged, and I pleaded, and I cried, and I, prayed, and it wasn't until she was about 5 where I finally said, okay, God, I need to be released from this, because, I was like, I refuse to take any type of birth control, so I'm just saying, you're on your own here. And, I finally, felt that release. God finally gave me that. He let it go, and I felt at peace with that. If I was going to have the 1, then maybe God had a plan. Maybe she's going to go to Harvard, maybe lots of money to do that. Or, maybe there's some other plan involved where 1 was going to be the plan. And then I got pregnant with Naomi. And I I cried. Here my daughter is like almost 9. We're at that stage where she's bathing on her own. She's getting in the car by herself. We're beyond all this, and I'd been at peace with it for quite a while. And I was also in a position in life where I wasn't going to have the same opportunity that I did with her, where my mom was going to be able to take care of her, so we were looking at daycare. I mean, just my whole world was falling apart, and here God was blessing me with an additional child, and I'm falling apart. And through that, I think as I look back, God knew that had He blessed me with children right away, not only would I probably have a boatload, but it just wasn't the right timing. I just wasn't in a place where I could have my heart's desire to be able to stay home, to be that mommy that I wanted to be. And so thus my kids all came later in life. And I think also that God needed time to work on my husband too. Separate and apart from me, not me begging, not me pleading, not me, oh hey, or trying to manipulate the situation. Because by the time we reached Wyatt and Sophia, and in particular Sophia, he actually came to me and said, let's have another. And I said, are you out of your mind? We have these 4. I'm old. I'm tired. But he's like, well, I think, we really should have another. And I just looked like, who are you? And thus we have Sophia. And it wasn't until after I had her that I really felt at peace. I think up until then I'd always thought, oh, what if it happens, and maybe, and you never know. And people always ask you, especially once you get past 2, are you done yet? And definitely 3, you must be done now. Because after you reach 3, the party's in, the congratulations in, in the family, and they start saying sometimes not so nice things when your heart's desire, you take it as not so nice. When your heart's desire is to have more children, people think you're just crazy, especially here in the Northwest. But I think, and now here I'm able to be blessed with staying home ever since Travis was 1. I think just God knew that that's what needed to happen. That's where it needed to be. And I again feel that peace with Sophia. As soon as she was born, I was like, I'm done. I feel complete. If for some miracle God was to bless me with another, okay. I would be a little scared because I am old, but just for my own sanity. But I feel happy with the way things are. It's just nice to look back and see what a blessing. God's a gift and a blessing. I'm just thankful. That's how we decide.
Well, I think just side note too, I think it's important to remember because we are women and we live in a society that compares everybody and we compare to, it has to be done with a perfect formula and it has to be done after 2 years and they have to be this far apart and they have to, God's got a plan and He's going to make it work however it needs to, whether they're, 10 years apart, they're 4 years apart. Please don't do it as fast as I did. That's the only thing I recommend. That was God's, my own little letting go of control. But, just God's got a perfect plan for everybody's family.
How do you balance time with each child, your husband, and yourself? Stephanie and Angela.
Sure. So I think that this was another thing that God did a lot of refining in me. Apparently he knew that I needed lots of kids to change my heart. This was something that if you had met me when I had 2 children, I would have made lots of comments all the time about how, oh my goodness, just get me out of the house. And my husband would come home from work and I would be like, I am out of here. And I would just grab the keys and I would find somewhere to go, even if it was the grocery store. And I was entitled and I deserved it because I had been home with 2 children all day. And then, things, as I started to make some more mom friends and stuff, there was girls' nights and fun things to go do. And I realized that it is super hard. It is super hard to balance the relationships of the people that God puts before you, namely first your husband and your children. when you're so focused on getting time for yourself. And I'm not saying that I don't get time to myself. I have had people take my kids for the whole day, and I've been alone in peace and quiet. My husband does let me go to the grocery store by myself or to Starbucks and stare at the wall. But when it was the number one relationship for me, that was my first priority. I couldn't balance the relationship between even my husband and 2 children. And so as there became a 3rd and a 4th and a 5th child along this process, sometimes the waves of overwhelmingness, they all need me. They all need me to love them well. They all need me to love them and train them in the ways of the Lord. They all need me to serve them. And my focus was still, but how am I going to get time for me? And the thing that began to put it in balance and made me able to invest fully in each one of the people that God had put in my life was a shifting of how the scales are balanced and how I'm going to meet the needs that I do have. Because we do have needs. I'm not saying that the relationship of taking care of ourselves should be non-existent, but it has to look a lot different if it's going to work right. And I can promise you that 10 minutes spent in God's Word and on my face before Him is going to equip me and refresh me and enable me for whatever that day brings with the people in my life far more than wandering the aisles of Target, far more than any girls' night, any aerobics class, any time with myself, any amount of chocolate, because I've tried them all, I promise. And sometimes that's what we have. Most of the time, that's what we're given. And that's what we're promised because it's what we need and it's what will sustain us. So that has to come first before you can balance anything else, is you have to fill yourself up with the love that's never ending, or you're not going to be able to love well. It's impossible because we can't love. It's like not in our nature. But it is in God's nature. And so when we love with His love, He can give you 20 children. I mean, heck, Gladys Aylward had 100 kids in her care for I don't even know how long. It took them through the mountains of China. But she did it in God's love. And so 5 kids is like nothing compared to that. And when that began to shift in me, and that began to be how I dealt with me time or myself, it began to have more of an abundance and an overflow in how I could invest in my husband and my children. And so it's not super easy. I mean, 5 kids and a husband, he's very gracious and willingly moves himself to the back burner a lot. But it still is a lot. It still is hard. They still all need me at the same time sometimes. And they have character issues, and they have sensitivity, and they have things that come up. And so balancing that sometimes is tricky. But when I look at how God orders things, it becomes really easy because they don't need everything all to themselves. They don't need to do every activity that they want to do. They don't need to have one-on-one mommy say, what do you want? You can have whatever you want. I'm here for you. What they need is for me to love them in a way that teaches them to love others. And so when they have to wait in line behind their siblings sometimes, it's teaching that to them, and it's building character in them. And they're having awareness of people outside of them. And that was super hard, especially the jump from 2 to 3, where I just couldn't, somebody had to be crying sometimes, and I couldn't get to them right away because I'm nursing, and they were having a fit on the bathroom floor. And that kind of breaks you a little bit as a mom, and until you start to change your thinking. You think, oh God, I'm just a bad mom, I'm just terrible. If I had less kids, I could meet their needs. If I, it was so stupid of me to have more children, because now they're just helpless. They're on the bathroom floor and they're crying. And then, what I've got from that is that they're more selfless and they're more capable. My older 2 were nightmares as preschoolers, and I think it's because I was reaping what I'd sown into them. And not that my 2 kind of preschoolers, age ones now, are perfect, they're not, but they're very capable children. And they have an awareness that it's not all about them. And so I guess those are kind of like my two caveats for how do you balance things, is that you have to have a right perspective of what me time looks like, and you have to have a right perspective to what you should put into a relationship with your husband and children, and what you can't, like what's actually possible for you. And that's something that God just has used giving me lots of children to refine.
I totally agree with that. It wasn't until I have a couple books that have really helped me. One, they're both by Sally Clarkson, and one's The Mission of Motherhood, and the other one's The Ministry of Motherhood. And I never saw motherhood in that way. So these books really help shape a lot of what you're saying. I just want to read one small package. You know, God has designed the family in a certain way, and so this is kind of what she's talking about. It says, this design doesn't mean I have to lose myself in my children's lives. On the contrary, following God's design for living is the true key to finding myself, to becoming this person He had in mind for me all along, and saying yes to the mission of motherhood has certainly not meant giving up my ministry. To a great extent, it is my ministry. And I agree with what you're saying. It wasn't until I started shifting, because I felt the same way. I'm owed, you've been out, you don't know what I've been through, this is crazy, I need to get out of here, I need time for me. And I had lost myself in that great design on what I'm here for. Yes, I need time to renew myself, but I think it looks differently than I thought it. It looks differently now than I had thought it should look. I guess, my vision was I should be able to get out and have all these, nights to myself, once a week. I should be able to leave. And not that those things are bad, it's just that I don't idolize them anymore. It isn't, I don't feel slighted if I don't get those moments. And I agree with the kids. They do, now that they do understand that they have to wait. They have to have patience, I'm trying to teach them, that acronym JOY. If any of you guys watch the Duggars, you hear that it's Jesus first, others next, yourself last, as they're dealing with each other and what they want and their own needs within the house, And in a practical way, I do try and make sure that my husband and I get at least once a month, that I make it a priority that him and I have time alone together. We kind of have a weekly TV night, which is kind of a weird date night, but sometimes that's all you get. And so I make sure the kids are in bed. I make sure that he understands that this time that we get to spend together just holding hands on the couch is a priority for me. I don't have my mind shifted doing something else. I'm not sitting there crocheting. I'm not sitting there looking at my phone. I make sure he understands this is a priority, for me. I make sure I'm home, I also try and take the burden of scheduling something outside of the home, whether it be we get to go have lunch, we go grocery shopping together. It doesn't always have to look like this huge date, but I think it's really important that he knows that I honor that time with him, that I spend that time with him. And then as far as the kids go, on practical terms, feeling like I get to spend individual time with them, I think that's another thing I had to really shift and think about, because I had always been that bedtime where we read the book and we say our prayers and we lay down, and I had to kind of give a little bit of that away when you have these young babies, like, please just go to bed. And so it looks different. It isn't always an individual bedtime for each one of the kids, but I do try and take one night, each kid one night, and maybe spend 15 minutes on my bed reading a book, or whatever that kid likes. Maybe it's playing a game. So the two little ones are home with me all the time, so I can do that during the day. The older ones are not there. And like last night, I let my older ones stay up. The other kids went to bed, and that was our time together, just that little bit of time where she felt extra special having that time together. And for Travis, he loves to read, and so he likes individual time with Mom to get and read his dinosaur book, and that I show an interest in that. And so, and I also try and take them on dates, not once a month, but I try and make sure that I do that it's, even if it's just the grocery store. Hey, Naomi, you want to go with me? We're headed, I'm just going to the grocery store. And that's a time for her to talk without fighting with the siblings, for time for me to hear her. Or I take just Sophia, and she thinks that is just the funnest thing in the world. So even just taking them individually on an errand is a huge deal to them, or I leave them all behind and to go just with my son to soccer. And for him, that's a cool thing. So I think if you look for opportunities, you can find them. They just might not look the way you wanted them to, or what you have in your mind, or what society tells you it needs to look like. You know, I think it, anyways.
Adrian and Krista, how do you handle the workload when the kids outnumber the parents?
This is my favorite topic. Start them young. They are very, very capable. I think they start out as little lumps, and we just get so used to doing everything for them that we don't give them the opportunity. I just wanted to go through some examples of things that I did. When they're 1, they know how to, when you take their clothes off, they can carry their clothes to their dirty clothes, and you put them in there. And it's just, they make a mess. No big deal. Here's the wash rag. You clean it up. It's really easy. I remember when I had Megan, she was 2, and Ava, she must have just been like 6 months, and I called my friend who had 4 babies at the time, and I was like, how do you do it? I can't get anything done. She's like, and I knew how wise she was. She's like, let them help you. And I was like what? What can they do? They're so incapable. She's like, well, let them get the garbage out of the bathroom. Oh, that's so easy. How about filling underneath the cabinets with toilet paper? We need toilet paper in our bathrooms. Get it out of the closet. They love to help. The other thing, crackers. They make such an awesome mess. Get a little tiny dustpan in a broom from the dollar store and allow them to do it. You have to release the control of, I can do it faster, I'm more efficient. They will never learn how to do it, and it will be harder to teach them, I feel, as they get older. It's harder to teach a 5-year-old who's never used a dustpan. I feel like allowing them to do this, allowing them, I had it written down so perfectly, so I wanted to say it so perfectly. Allowing them the opportunity is the key to their success and building their confidence. If they don't have the confidence to do it, that's often, I feel like, why 5-year-olds give them a new task. They're like, oh, they don't want to screw it up. They are pleasers. They want to do it good, and you start them young and have the enthusiasm. You can do it. Oh, good job. That's so exciting. My 14-month-old knows how to get her shoes, and we put them on together. And I just think that is so awesome as a mom to be able to see that my child is capable. And I am teaching my kid how to be a hard worker. I wrote down a verse. But accountability is not an age, it is a state of consciousness. That's James 4:17. And I just love how as moms, we can love them, and we can what's the word I want, celebrate in their successes. And there are going to be times where your little one is not going to want to do what you want them to do. And there are other, we do this, we fill up our puffball jars. So we have a little jar, and after you earn so many puffballs, we get to go on a special date day, but it's exciting. It can be, hey, thanks for having a good attitude. Here's a puffball in your jar. And just rewarding them for good behavior also. And you're not going to be able to get it all done when you have lots of kids. I don't know. It's nice to have that picture of, oh, we can do it. We're so organized and productive, but there are those days where none of us are perfect. But I'm just excited to have kids who are hard workers and know how to finish a job and have the confidence to do it.
I am the same way. I think that my kids needed to, I don't pee on the seat, sorry. I know how to sit on the toilet and not pee everywhere, which is fabulous. So that was one of the first things my kids learned. Clorox wipes, my favorite thing in the whole wide world. You put a stack on the back, and if you pee on the seat, go clean it up. And so my kids have daily chores, and they have weekly chores. And I have this really cool chore chart. And I actually pay, I think maybe it's a difference between boys and girls too. my kids want to know what they have before they have it, so I pay my kids an allowance at the beginning of the month. We're getting back into this. And then I take from their jars when they haven't done or completed their chore, or if I have to remind them more than once. And so they watch the money with like, wait, that was mine. And it also, at the end of the month, we save half of what they've earned. They tithe 10% of what they've earned, and then they spend 40%. And so they have envelopes. So it's also teaching them how to save money, how to give to the church. And as they got older, my 5-year-old can clean an entire bathroom. Now, does he do it as well as his 10-year-old brother? No, not necessarily. So our chores that we have rotating are, I have somebody who's on floors, and so they have to vacuum the floors twice a week, and they have to steam off them. Hardwood floors are the best thing ever. And then we have bathrooms. I have mirrors and dusting, and I have dogs, because we have 2 large German Shepherds, so there's a lot of dog poop outside, and that's part of it. And so, but I add too, when my youngest is on dusting, I don't expect him to do the mirrors completely, streak free. And when the 10-year-old is doing dusting mirrors, he needs to do the kitchen, and he needs to. So it's adding to what they can do, and at the same time not being well, geez, I get the hard chore all the time because I'm the oldest. No, I just make it so it's age appropriate for what they are. So that means when my 6-year-old has, dusting or bathrooms, that I'm in there. But I also have to make it a point that I'm not correcting what they've done when they're 5 or 6. When they were 3 and 4 and helping, I didn't go behind them and then fix it all, because then I'm instilling in them that they're not doing a good enough job. Granted, yes, after they go to sleep, then I will go finish, but making sure that they knew that I was proud of the job they'd done. And now as they get a little older, my 9 and 10-year-old, we spent 6 hours cleaning our floors the other day because we weren't doing the job that I'd asked. I asked you to edge the floors, you're not doing that. And so at the same time, we need to work and do our best effort, not just get through the job. And so some character issues that, we're struggling with in our house, but that we're staying firm and saying, hey, you know what, it's not just a chore to get the house clean, it's also a way to obey and listen and obey my mom and honor my dad, who's working so hard that he can come home to a clean house. And we do chores before we get to play. So that's kind of how we have divvied them up.
I just want to say I do clean my house. As they were talking, I was just yeah, we do all of that too. Wait, I just told them we don't clean. I can do chores.
All right, last question, and then I think we'll have a couple minutes for open questions. How does everyone get to do what they want to do in a large family? Example, if you have a teen and a baby, if you have boys and girls, if there are different sports, interests, etc. Stephanie and Adrian.
I want to say too with chores, by having your kids do chores, you're raising confident adults and good employees by being a hard button saying, no, that's not good enough. As testimony, my 20-year-old has thanked me, so yay. Her boyfriend, not so much, because she's kind of on the bathroom. That's not clean. But anyways, they don't get to do everything anymore. That's just the way it is. And, I think that's okay. I really do. My kids know that my personality I just cannot handle multiple kids in multiple sports. I can't do it. My brain cannot go there. And so they know, my 11-year-old knows if Travis, he's playing soccer right now, that for her sports are out. Because I make a priority to be here on Tuesdays for D Club. A priority for me is family meals at home. And so if it does not fit within that, if I can't make it work, we can't do it. It's just not going to happen. She has flute that she plays, so it's not that, well, you get to do nothing and they get to do everything because yours never fits in the schedule and theirs does. I try and make sure that, if they have an interest, I do everything I can to make sure that we support that interest and try and make it work. Even if that means moving family meal times to a little bit weirder time, that's fine. My priority is to be home on the weekend. We'll go play games on Saturday, but Sunday, I'm not going anywhere Sunday. That is my day of rest. I want my kids to know that's a day of rest. For us to be together as a family, to connect, to invite family over. And so I just had to to really lay down some rules in regards to that. But I try and make sure I'm supporting each one of the kids and things that they want to do. And the same goes for birthday parties. I cannot afford to have a big bouncy house party or to big Chuck E. Cheese party for everybody. It's not in the cards. And so, but I try and make sure that that day is really special for them, that it's about them, that we celebrate them, and have some kind of a party. It just probably isn't going to look like maybe they want it to look, but we try really hard. And I know for my older kids, we've started, especially the 11-year-old, she started to want time just with mom and dad. I think it was last year or the year before. We're like, what do you want to do for your birthday? What do you want? You want a party? You want a friend over? What do you want to do? And she's like, Mom, I just really want to go downtown. I want to ride on the Ferris wheel, and I want just you and Dad. I'm like, really? Oh, we can do that, because that's a day out for me. That sounds awesome. Because 11, I don't have to worry about him acting up at the table, so this is great. So, I think we've just changed our idea of what that looks like, and we've just made certain things a priority, and they aren't going to change, and, they just don't.
I think for Kenny and I, it's a perspective too, and a shift in what are you willing to contribute, what am I willing to give up and sacrifice. So having 4 boys, this has been probably my craziest year. I will just tell you, hallelujah for the Boys and Girls Club. If you want your kids to play sports, and you want to set the time, and exactly, because for us, we do soccer and baseball, and it was kind of like, here's my kids' options. They would like to play football. I've said no for several reasons. But I'm like, here's the 2 sports that we can do. Winter is hard for us because we have lots of family stuff, and so I don't want to get into that. I coach a co-ed softball, and like she said, people and relationships. I've been playing on the same team with our church softball family for 14 years now. That's a family to us, and my kids have grown up with all these other kids, so they actually have gone, Mom, we would rather go to your softball game, which, hallelujah, than play themselves in some ways. We've told Cameron, who isn't maybe going to qualify for the Boys and Girls Club this year, that I'm not going to Little League. I think sports are important, especially for boys, because they need to learn how to run it out and get a grip and listen to a coach and to be able to try your hardest, but at the same time, it can't come at the detriment of your schoolwork or family. Now, I'm willing to have dinner at 7:30 at night right now because we've got kids playing. And so I say right now, soccer season is our busy season. I'm gone 4 nights a week. I don't have help from Kenny. I am running, and if you know me, I'm very selfish, and I rig my team so that all of my friends are on my teams. Do that. Find kids with people the same, or with kids the same age, and be like, so, here's what we're playing. I will say that we have a pretty cool 6- and 7-year-old soccer team because out of the 13 children, only 3 of them are not my really good friends. But find it. That's what you do, because then as you grow up and your kids get to play, you can oh my gosh, so-and-so is sick today. Because they become little communities. But I think it is super important for your kids to be able to play, but I don't think they need to play every sport all year long. Brenda's like, Mom, I'm going to try basketball. Honey, your dad is 5'9", you're not going to have a shot. Good thing, and basketball all-star. Okay, so reality checks in a little bit. But at the same time, going, here we go, here's what I'm willing to give. If you want to take this, great. If not, this is what we can do. But it was a conversation, Kenny and I had when they were little. Here's the 2 sports, here's the 2 seasons. He's a soccer player, I'm a ball player. It worked well for us. And maybe when they get into junior high and high school, we will reevaluate, but that's what we have decided.
The other thing, if your kids want to play something that, like a basketball, for instance, you don't have to join a team. Get a hoop. The garbage can works great too. We can shoot from the living room.
All right, we have time for 1, maybe 2 questions. If anybody wants to shout something out.
No? I have one.
All right, Marguerite.
I have a family of 8, and there's middle children in 8. Do you find that there's any middle children? You know what I'm talking about? That feel left out. I have a brother and sister. They were ranked 5 and 6, and they grew up with the middle child syndrome, if you've ever heard of that. you see that in you, and how do you prevent that if it's possible?
I think just recognizing it. Yeah. Because I think even though the 20-year-old's out of the house, I think the 11-year-old and the 7-year-old feels some of that themselves. And so it's taking that, because they need less. I mean, honestly, it's like they know they need to go take a shower. They know they need to brush their teeth. They, can handle those things. And so they get left out. They get less hugs. They get less snuggles. They just, you're demanding more of them. Can you please just go over, help your sister? And so I think for me, reminding myself to really pull them aside and say how much I appreciate them, how much I'm so happy they're part of the family, that our family would be complete without them, because sometimes they can feel a little down, I too can feel a little down, and just letting them see that I see how much they contribute, how much they bless me. I've tried to use that word more lately. Do you see how you just blessed your sister? You know what a blessing you are to them, so they can hear that word that they're a blessing to them. Is what I do, and try and spend a little bit extra, like coming along with me, including my oldest one lately in more adult conversations when it's appropriate, makes her feel special, makes her like I'm kind of older.
There's a really cool book called The Birth Order Book by Kevin Lehman. Awesome book. Like, if you want to I'm an oldest, so I get my oldest to a T. I understand him. My middle, not so much. But he reminds me a lot of my sister, who's a middle child. It's like, so reading this book, I have learned, especially like for me, my middle thinks he needs to be his brother. He wants to be everything to Cameron because Cameron gets recognized for every, X, Y, and Z. And I have to stop and go, God made you amazingly special. And there are so many things that I love about you and characteristics and qualities that I want in you. And so when I was actually able to understand that I can't also, and a lot of it was me at first, like I wanted him to be his brother. Cameron's the easiest kid ever. And Brendan, not so much. But I have more fun with Brendan than I ever have with Cameron. Because Brendan will let loose and he can, it's so much fun. And so reading these, like just this book and going, oh, now I get it.
I would just add that,
Sorry.
I would just add that God knew the order that they were going to come in, and He's created them to be the person that they are going to be, regardless of where they came, because He designed them to come that way. And so, a lot of times with my children, like I'll say to them often, like, God knew that you were going to be so-and-so's big brother or big sister, and so-and-so's younger brother or younger sister, and He gave that job to you because that's what He wants you to do, and He's going to equip you to do it. And so, the middle role is different than the oldest or the youngest, but I would argue that they all get shafted, just in a different way, and not necessarily that it's shafted. I mean, the oldest is the guinea pig, and you require much of them. You require much of them, and they get their world turned upside down because they're everything, and then they're nothing. Not really nothing. I don't treat my oldest like he's nothing, but you know what I'm saying? Like for them, it's the most drastic change. And then when you have a large family, you have the youngest who doesn't necessarily take on the role of the baby when there's so many. I mean, he's our baby, but he's also has to be very flexible 2-year-old. He's not, when Justin was 2, he was 2, and the world was all about 2-year-olds, and we did things that 2-year-olds like to do, and we played 2-year-old games, we ate 2-year-old food, and we took 2-year-old naps. And I do try and make, sometimes my older kids don't get to do things because the little kids need naps. And sometimes little kids nap in the car because the big kids need to do big kid things sometimes. So the middle role is a tricky one. I'm a middle child. I have come from a family of 6 girls. So it's a tricky place to be sometimes. But I think that so is being the oldest and so is being the youngest, and that God puts us exactly where He wants us to be to interact with our parents and our siblings, exactly how He's designed our family to go. And so I don't buy into the whole middle child syndrome, because I'm a rebel. I'm a middle child.
Thank you. All right, ladies, if you have any other questions, I know the hearts of all these women up here. Just ask them, and they might not know the answer right away, but they will give you some wisdom with their hearts, and pray about it, and
If they don't know the answer, they'll get back to you. I think Rose, right?